Welcome to Shweta's Talkies. Today I sit with the very effusive Mr. Chander Lall. Over 3 decades of IP, intellectual property rights, patents, trademarks, and everything and anything that we content creators or the designers need to fortify ourselves with. He's the author of 4 books. One of the recent ones, which I'm going to show you soon, is Comparative Advertising, quite fabulous. We sit with him to answer some of our questions, very relevant to today's day and age. The Economic Times recently reported India needs to move away from a defensive stance to an offensive stance to intellectual property rights and sign the key international agreements to send the right signal to domestic and foreign entrepreneurs. I think I know what I means, but who better to comment on this than Mr. Chander Lall, practicing IPR for decades by now. What do you think happened, and you think India is coming of age or trying to catch up?
It's saddened me to see that how foreign companies treat intellectual property and how we in India treat intellectual property. We are the largest creators of intellectual property in the world.
Why do you say that?
If you see, we have the largest film industry in the world. We have one of the most robust music industries in the world. Almost, on a very conservative estimate, pharmaceutical patents, 30% of the patentees would be Indians origin, not Indian citizens. Yet our patent filings are abysmally low. Indian patents are abysmally low. Trademarks, we have businesses, smaller businesses, all dependent on trademarks. So it's high time we woke up and realized that intellectual property is our strength. It is a strength which should give us global leadership. It hasn't done that till now.
Okay, drawing from what you just said, a decade plus of experience in the movie industry.
So movie industry is very interesting. I've worked with all leading actors. I have interesting stories of Mrs. Sr.Adv, who was part of she was at the Rajya Sabha at that time, whose livelihood depended on the film industry. And I was having a chat with her. I used to represent the Hollywood studios, the Motion Picture Association of America, so just pushing back from there. The Motion Picture Association of America, which makes only 150 films in a year, which had less than 1% revenue from a country like India, and I'm talking 20 years ago, still had a budget for anti-piracy work to stop piracy in India, and paid somebody like me from a budget of 7 studios who competed with each other. They're not 7 now, they've reduced now because of all the acquisitions and all, but all 7 studios contributed equally to a global anti-piracy budget, and India also got a budget at that point about 1 crore plus to fight piracy in India. And I couldn't get the Indian film industry to collect even an equivalent amount of that money, 1 crore amongst 800 film producers to look after anti-piracy. And I was speaking to Mrs. Shweta, and she said, you know what, we watch each other's movies on a video on those CDs, and we call each other up and congratulate each other, great movie. I'm like, do you know that every library that is there in the country is illegal? She said, what are you saying? I said, yeah, do you realize that all this has to be licensed? And there are huge, blockbuster stores which license in America and make money out of it. And we guys, as people who are from the industry, don't recognize their own property. I'll give you a shocking example. I went to IIT to hire people. I said, you are the premier institute of technology. Surely you must be having patents. He says, what is patents?
No.
They said, what is patents? I said, what do you do when you develop a technology? They said, we publish. I said, what happens when you publish? Oh, we get credits, and I am as a professor will get credits. I said, so your students work on that technology. Do you make money out of it from that publication? No, we just become famous. And then what happens? Nothing. I said, does that fill your coffers? No. That same thing in universities in the United States, they have a collaboration with the students. If they work on technologies, they will mine it, they'll catch it, they'll protect it, they'll patent it. Thousands of patents will go wasted, but one will get a hit, and they'll make millions of dollars on it. Pharmaceutical companies will do research, they will every little incremental development, they will patent, and they'll protect. Their systems will protect it, they'll recognize it, the governments will protect it, their legal systems will protect it. We are way behind on that.
So you're saying it hasn't happened for decades, so do you think there is a renewed passion to turn it, and hence the news item?
There's no other way. We are again, the news item you read is because we are pressurized to join other treaties. Why are we doing it to join treaties?
But there's also a benefit for us, right? Pressurized or not is different, but there's also a benefit to us, right? If we do get into it, because we've not gotten into it for so far.
There are different formulas. Now what did China do? China didn't follow treaties. China was the biggest pirater of intellectual property.
Absolutely.
So they copied all technologies and developed their economy and said, I'm not going to pay for your technology, Mr. United States. You're a developed country. I'm not. I am developing. I'm not going to pay royalties to your people. I will copy. I will close my economy. I will copy. I will encourage people to manufacture according to your technologies. I will not protect patents. I will not protect intellectual property. Over time, those companies were given incentives. They copied. They made money. That money was put into research. Cellular technology, Qualcomm, Philips, you name it. European companies, it shifted to the United States. Now it's all shifted to China.
Wow.
The 5G, the 6G, the 7Gs are going to mostly come out of China, the Huawei's of the world. So they've converted copying intellectual property into a virtue to now being the creators of intellectual property. And now they clamp down and say, now join our treaties. And now it's the other way around. The United States is saying, no, we don't want to protect it because we don't want to pay for that technology.
Original content is something you grow out of your own. Let's say this is a talk show, right?
Yeah.
Original content. Me commenting on someone's reaction is secondary content, right? Which is of less value, or I'm commenting on cricket. The commentary itself is secondary content. My content is speaking to you. I don't think I could afford you right now. So what are my first attempt to protect myself?
So your question has the problem in it.
Okay.
Why are we always, this happened with the film industry. I said, why do you not want to spend on anti-piracy? You've just spent 100 crores on a film. Why don't you want to spend? Give you an example, in 2001, I was told by the Hollywood studios, you've got to bring in the Indian film industry. I reached out to all producers of that year. I did Lagan, I did Dil Chahta Hai, I did Aks, I worked with Shah Rukh on Ashoka, finally Yash Johar's K3G. I started with, I think the first film was Shah Rukh's film, and I said, Shah Rukh, what's the problem? He says, I'm doing Ashoka, I want to protect it. I said, okay, we're going to watermark all your prints. We'll see where it comes out. Finally, we find one from a movie hall in UP, watermarked, caught him. Went, caught the guy, said, you've leaked the film. He said, I've not done anything. I found out he had sent it from the production place to the theatre. It took a week to deliver through a 100 rupee courier. And I looked at Shah Rukh and I'm like, you actually send your film with a 100 rupee courier? And it was missing for a week and you don't know where it was? Now what do you want me to do? I can't catch this guy. Next came Aamir's Lagan. He went ballistic on, I said, I need you. I need you personally. When we do a raid, you will personally come and give an interview. Every morning there was Aamir on my movie has been caught, we've got X number of CDs, people got damn scared, what's happened? Why is this movie so we were able to control it. Meera Nair's Monsoon Wedding, she had 120 prints. She said, I'm going to release in the UK after 7 weeks. You need to protect it for 7 weeks. I said, it's unheard of. Who can protect a film for 7 weeks? She said, you've got to do it. I said, how many prints? 120 prints. I said, give me 120 prints. She said, done. I hired Group 4 Securitors, handed them prints. I said, you will go to the theatres on Thursday and you will sit, and every 8 hours duty changes. You will have your guard. We'll call our central control room and tell us who the guard is, and he will sit with the film in front of him. Because what they do is they remove one. By the time they put the other one, within the 3 hours, they send that out, make a copy. We reached the theatres, our security guards, they said, sorry, we don't allow anybody in the theatre room. They called me, I said, very well, you can run some other film then, I'm not giving you my film.
Wow, okay.
They said, no, but we've already advertised, we've sold tickets. I said, sorry, then you've got to agree to my terms. They said, fine, okay, we'll let us in. 7 weeks, not a film. Not one pirated copy. Finally, it was leaked in London when she released it.
I see. Then
went to Yash Johar, K3G, he had 600 prints. I said, it cost 1 crore for that. It'll cost you 6 crores because you're 6 times the prints. Arey Lall sahab, itne paise kaun kharchega? What kharchiye? He gave me 5 lakhs. Many didn't even pay the 5 lakhs. I don't want to name people. But didn't pay me. He paid me 5 lakhs. I did 90 raids all over India. And when I went to meet him, I thought he'll give me a pat on the back. He said, Lall sahab, aapne meri picture kharab kar di. Itni piracy hui hai because nobody else released a movie in December around K3G. It was such a big movie. Monsoon Wedding had 120 prints in October. It was still running 80 prints. In January, February, March, K3G had gone out of circulation because pirated copies had leaked. Monsoon Wedding survived till 2002.
Oh, okay.
For 3 weeks beyond K3G, 80 prints. Then I went back to all the producers and said, do you mind paying money and see we can do it? And we reached out to the police. The police initially wouldn't do it. Nahi, aap complainant baniye. I said, complainant banke, where all will I go? I can't have my film producers running to little courts and all over the country.
Correct,
And they're not going to run, and, for the next 10 years, they'll be fighting these cases. I said, copyright is ownership, driven, and you need to have a license in writing. So it's like Shah Rukh's film is less than 60 years old because he's still alive, right? 60 years, it's life of author plus 60 years. So the producer is still alive. So every film has a life. And the Copyright Act says that it is the responsibility of the police if the copyright has been, or is likely to be violated. Why don't you guys enforce the law on your own? You already have the police in the local area. And, the film industry is powerful. It could have put pressure on the government.
And has all the money, but getting back to normals like us, okay? Let's say I have a YouTube channel which is growing, and I'll make it very specific. I have just about registered, covered it, just the name. I can have 2-3 auxiliaries for it, right? Tomorrow if I want to start something else. Yeah. But the content, like one is YouTube not allowing remixing. I don't allow remixing. That protects me, because then who the hell will I fight if they misconstrue the content I put out?
Okay, so YouTube, now with technologies the way they are moving, it's become much more difficult. Now New York Times has sued OpenAI for saying that you're actually digging in for your AI, you're digging into my content.
You're using my content to generate AI.
To generate AI.
AI
is always, generative AI is always using existing content.
Correct.
All existing content is copyright subject matter. They've actually sued that you are using my copyrighted subject matter to train your AI, and therefore you're violating copyright. Now ANI has sued as well to say that you can't use my content in this fashion. Now, when you get a revenue model, you have to understand that your YouTube revenue model is exclusive. This interview can be put out by everybody. Nobody is going to come on your YouTube and subscribe to your YouTube channel.
Hence, it's on my channel. Okay.
So now you have to protect that channel, and you have to make sure that you enforce it.
So I've taken the steps. Then what else does a YouTuber like me do besides what I did on my options? Now what?
Well, if you enforce your copyrights, and you take it, so if somebody takes this content and puts it on their channel, you have a right to sue them. Unfortunately, we don't have a system where you can get a lot of damages. In the US, you drive that man under the bridge because you will sue him for so much money, and if you succeed, so he will settle because they know there's an efficient legal system. We don't have such an efficient legal system.
How does fair use apply in the Indian digital space, especially when it comes to reaction videos? If I'm doing my content.
All copyright law is protectable with no charge. The moment you create, you have copyright in it.
Okay.
Now there are 6 basic forms of copyright. Your usual literary work, artistic work, musical work, dramatic work. Then there are sound recordings and films. The moment you create them, we are members of the Universal Copyright Convention and the Berne Convention. All Indian works are liable to be protected globally to all signatory countries with no further requirements of registration. So you create and there is copyright. That will answer your, I'm anticipating a question, what is protected? Everything that's creative is protected globally. So American films are protected in India, Indian films are protected abroad. Indian books are protected abroad, foreign books are protected in India.
Okay.
Every content that's on the internet, on YouTube, wherever it may be, is subject matter of copyright and somebody owns it. Because anybody who asks you a question, can I download stuff from the internet? Can I reuse this material? Anticipating your questions, can I use part of it? De minimis use? The answer is no.
Okay.
Now, every copyright work for transfer has to have a written document. It cannot happen verbally. I can't tell you, Shweta, you know what, this is my content, you can have it. And Shweta goes ahead and publishes it on her channel. I will sue you. And when you come around and say, but you said you could use it, but where's the written document? The law says you had to have a written document.
I see.
Now the written document again has very specific requirements which you must put in. If I don't put in, Shweta, you can use this work globally, then you can't use it globally. If I say only India, if I don't mention territory, then it's only India. You can only
implicit that it's India.
So if my contract with you, a written contract says I give you this copyright, it's implicit that it's only for India unless I say for the globe or universe, and tomorrow if it's in Mars, you can play it there as well. Otherwise it's implicit that it's in India. The law says it.
Okay.
If I give it to you and say, Shweta, I hope this interview is going to come within 1 year, and you don't do it, and we are making this film, this is actually a cinematograph film, you don't publish it in a year, it comes back to me, you don't have the copyright. There's a requirement that you must utilize it within a year, unless your contract says to the otherwise that I will publish this after 3 years.
I see.
So there are lots of checks and balances in the Act which are the generator friendly laws. So everything is there. When you ask fair use, section 52 of the Copyright Act sets out in detail what the exceptions are.
Define it for me in general.
So educational purposes, news reporting, legal proceedings, there are very specific exceptions. I can't list them all out because there are about 30 of them.
Obviously.
But please, I invite you to read 52 and see if you fall within those exceptions. Each set out very clearly.
Okay.
If you do, you are exempted. If you don't, you are an infringer.
Let's say fair use would be something I've said, or something has said, it's like a speech, for example. I use it on my talk show to educate the audience, okay, versus I use it on my talk show to educate the audience and it's now making revenue. What would be the difference?
So you're using a piece of music to explain, I'm using music, so now I'm going to play this music to demonstrate which part is the lyrics, which part is the musical composition. So I'm just going to play this for the next minute. Now see, that part that's educational. But in this talk show, you start playing music in the backdrop. It adds to the ambience of this show. You pay.
So that becomes a value add.
That's a value add.
I see.
So when you buy a CD or whatever, now you don't buy CDs, but download music and you play it in a restaurant, you're adding to the ambience of the restaurant, you pay a royalty on that.
Oh,
Every year. You run it in a discotheque, you pay a higher royalty.
I see.
So you don't buy the content. When you buy music, when you go on YouTube or you download on any other music app, Apple Music or any, you're doing it for your personal use. I can't say that I've subscribed to Apple Music, so I own a restaurant and I can run that music. That's commercial use.
I see. On that question, let's say we go Google, we look for Google Images and there's a tool on Google and it says partially trademarked or partially copyright. One is copyright free. I'm talking about static images. It's available on the web. What should we look for as creators? I mean, yes, there's Canva now for resources. You bought the application, so any visual available there, you can edit, play with because you've paid for that subscription, so you can use it. But many people still go to open Google. How risky is that?
So you can put your work to an open, available, copyright-free platform. I can declare myself copyright-free. I create content. It's my job. I can declare it copyright-free. But I must declare it. Now, Getty Images puts up for pictures. It sells pictures. It has a Getty Images watermark. You pay for it. It removes the watermark. Getty Images has sued OpenAI to say you are actually pulling into my pictures. Your AI is using my pictures to train itself, to create new content. You can't use my pictures, even though you are not using my pictures publicly, exposing them, but you're using it as a training tool. So your AI pings into my site, picks up my content to train your AI tool. It's copyright violation. EU has come out with a regulation that unless you put a disclaimer, you are allowed to, for AI purposes, it's fair use, to ping into somebody's site and pick up content which you don't use publicly, but to train your AI. So today we are battling with that AI for legislation to come in to say, content creators are fighting it to say AIs can't come in and pick up my content without asking me.
So where am I supposed to look for that provision when I start something? Is there an easy provision somewhere while you're...
You can go online and you'll find many copyright-free sites where you can download music, pictures. You know, I've published a book. I've just published 2 books. I know that my publisher only does paper-bound. It doesn't do hardbound. I will give them a license only for paper-bound. Same work is now exploitable in 5 different areas.
Venues.
Now somebody wants to make a film out of my book. Sorry, Mr. Publisher, that's not yours, it's mine. But what will happen is, when I sign up with the publisher will say, everything given to me. Now that's useless to the publisher because he's not a filmmaker. He never publishes that book. Now when I talk to a producer and say, I have this really nice book, and the producer says, oh, you know, I like your book, I want to make a movie. Suddenly, and he looks at my contract, he says, but you've given it to... ये तो उसका है, मैंने इसको कब दिया? Being aware, that's what I'm saying. Be aware of what's in your pocket.
It's easier to understand when you're an author because you're a singular source of creation. So you're the singular copyright, organic copyright.
Yes.
For the lack of a better term.
Yes.
What happens in a movie? There's not a singular creator. Everybody created it. So is there an organic fallback, or does it go to the producer?
So every intellectual property builds on other intellectual property.
Okay.
So no movie is made, and that's why it's called multimedia, without a script. I haven't written the script if I'm a film producer.
Correct.
Without music, I haven't written the music. Without actors who are performers, who have a performer's right. Several other creative elements go in, the cinematographer, the script writer, the screenplay writer. They are all owning copyrights independently, and you've got to have licenses and assignments from
all
each
the
one
verticals.
of them. All the verticals, because a snake charmer under our Copyright Act, which is interesting, our Copyright Act is the only one, is a performer under the recognized by law in statute. Copyright law says a snake charmer is a performer. I go shoot a snake charmer and think I can publish that on my YouTube channel. You can't do it. Sorry, that's his performance.
Oh wow, I didn't know
Have
that.
you taken a right from him?
While I'm creating content, does given credit to the, let's say, a news item, I wanted to overlay on it, and I'm creating a little reel, and I like a citing somewhere of a news item, I give credit to that news item. It could be a magazine or a newspaper. Does that help?
It helps you go to jail. Because you acknowledge it's not your content and you're copying somebody's content without his or her permission.
Even if I'm promoting their news?
So can I take a film and start publishing it and saying it's promoting your film? Can I take your music and say I'm promoting it?
Shit.
Can I take your book and say I'm promoting it? Can I take your article and say I'm promoting it? Can I take a portion of your...
Okay, I get it. Okay. Okay, I messed up a lot of shit, I get it.
So it's putting you in trouble, and it's an oft asked question.
Oh my God,
and
I had no idea.
The answer is no, that doesn't help. If you're going to, of course, we're using it for educational purposes, acknowledge it.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're in that fair use. If you're within that fair use, then you acknowledge and move on.
Copyright enforcement, once that happens, let's say I identify someone using my content, whether it's digital, I'm sure the handling would be different, but overall, digital or print or creative enforcement, what does it look like right now in India? How much time does it take? What are the few steps? What should we be prepared for? It's a civil case, I think.
No, it's a criminal case as well.
It's a criminal case as well. And is as well, matlab, difference kya hai fir?
So it overlaps. A copyright violation or copyright violation is criminal offense as much as, so you can go to the police if it's serious. You can write to the person, you can pull down those sites. Online content is always difficult to enforce, but also easy to enforce, because if you write to that person, he can easily pull it down. If he doesn't pull it down, then you can take it further up. If it's through a particular website where he's hosting it, you can ask the website hoster to pull it down. If it's on Facebook and your content is violating, you can write to Facebook to pull it down. You can create a complaint to these, if it's your product, for example, on a marketing site, you can ask them to pull it down. Tell me
a practical, this sounds like a project to me.
So, I mean, you see your content on online with somebody's site, it says contact us, you contact the person and say, jolly well pull it down.
And if they don't?
And if they don't, then threaten them with legal action. You can go to the police and make a complaint.
It will be an FIR?
It will be an FIR, absolutely.
And
it's a cognizable offense.
And what does the police do next?
And the police does what it's supposed to do.
No, but where do they go? Do they go to an authority? What do they do?
They can immediately write to, the cyber cell can write to the hosting site and say pull it down. You could ruin somebody's advertising campaign if it's in a, he's using it in a fair or something which is next 3 days. You
according to him.
Pull it down.
Fair use according to him.
Fair use according to him. Well, not that fair use. At a fair where he thinks it's fair use and therefore it's exempted.
Okay. I'm a design student and a lot of my peers have had this problem. Those days, the Indian fashion industry wasn't that evolved. We had couturiers, but it hadn't really burst out of the, barring a few. Now we have massive names. But they keep getting copied within the domestic market. Seems to be a pain point. I think you've dealt with a few cases like that. Could you give us a case and explain to us how it's working now versus how it used to work then, or something shifted, so we should be happy about it?
So we had a case where a lehenga was created That lehenga was used by a film, in a very popular song in the film for precisely 30 seconds.
Okay.
The actress Rani Mukherjee is wearing it for precisely 30 seconds, but that lehenga is identifiable. And we sued the producer and said, where did you get this lehenga from? This is not my lehenga, but
So the
it's
producer
identical.
got sued?
The producer got sued.
Okay.
So
Not the stylist?
No, they picked it up from Chandni Chowk.
The stylist picked it up and took it to the producer?
The producer took it.
The producer finally accepted it?
Well, the producer went to Chandni Chowk and purchased it because I hadn't sold it.
I see.
How did Rani Mukherjee get it?
Okay.
You know,
okay.
It's very interesting. Many designers, when they've come for protection, and I said, okay, show me your creation, because they haven't registered a design which you need to register, but you go under copyright. Show me your creation, and it's the karigar who's picked up,
The
stuff
khakas.
from various places.
Ouch.
And he picks up a switch from here, swatch from there, and creates it. And you're probably violating 3 other copyrights of somebody else.
Yourself.
And you've not collated all that material. So I keep telling people that for God's sake, when you create, tell your karigars to wherever they snip that stuff out from, put it in a file and keep it away. So that I'm able to show to the court that yes, I may have picked this up from there, but this is totally different content. So in many cases, it's not original work of theirs.
To start with.
And that's where we get into trouble, because when you sue somebody, he comes back with saying, hello, you copied too. Here, this is somebody before you who did this. And this happens in designs a lot.
So wait, what is the, okay, so there's a large debate about various designs being inspiration
yes.
versus copying. Who's to tell, yeah?
Well, you listen to Anu Malik's music, a lot of his music in the past, with due respect to him. And in the past, he's now creating a lot of original content, but in the past there were accusations of his copying some of the content when he said, I was inspired by such and such, English song. There's no copyright violation.
That's pretty tough in digital age. I mean, let's say I've had a design and it could be eerily similar, or maybe I have a 20-minute episode.
In digital age, it's very easy. You open up that digital file and you can pull out the sources of that, because everything is, in digital world, nothing is hidden. You can actually pull out the layers where you picked it up from. And AI today very successfully changes, and I had a client who came and said, this is my original picture, and they showed me an advertisement. They said, they've used this picture. I said, I'm sorry, I don't see the similarity. The models have changed, the way they're standing has changed, but the overall look and feel of that photograph, which is the core and heart and soul of that photograph, has been copied, but the lady is now wearing a different bag. She's wearing a completely different set of clothes. Her face was not looking here, it's looking the other way.
Oh, wow.
AI has the capability to do that, but you can layer that out to say that the actual source of that photograph, the inspiration, the lighting, was from this picture. So AI, for example, uses training tools to train AI, but doesn't necessarily use that to purge out information. So I send AI bots out as training tools to go to a Getty or go to a New York Times, pick up content and see what the user is going to look for, and then maybe derive content from that's the piece of news. It's able to now use that news to create entirely different content, which doesn't violate copyright. But that training itself is using somebody else's work.
Physical touch and feel. I see my design selling somewhere. Art, design, everything. In India, it's easy for me. You said go to the cops, put an FIR, let them do the due diligence. It's going to be painful, which we both agree. We don't have any time ki 6 mahine mein case over ho jayega, but we've done a good informed step 1. What happens overseas if my designs are selling overseas?
Oh, even better.
How?
Even better.
How?
A, if it's gone from here, you can sue here.
Okay.
B, you can go there and sue and get a lot of money.
I don't have the money to go there and sue. Is there a smarter way of
So,
doing it?
let me tell you, it is a smart thing to do that when you are a content creator, which a designer
No,
is.
right now we are in physical design.
I'm in physical. So you're a content creator in a physical world as a designer.
Understood.
Anybody can stitch a piece of cloth.
Okay.
You're not selling a stitched piece of cloth.
Okay.
You're selling a design. You're not selling cloth, you're selling intellectual property. I'm buying your stuff because you're different. I'm buying your stuff because you created something.
But that got copied overseas.
So first things first, you've got to send out a message, you will not allow your copying. If you're going to allow copying, you're going to lose your exclusivity.
Fair.
If you do not allow copying, 90% of the problem, you take 2 or 3 people, you set aside a budget for enforcement.
I see.
90% of your problem
Even
will be
overseas.
solved, even overseas. Overseas, they'll be much more careful. Overseas, you'll sue them and take their bank account. So overseas, they don't do it. They respect copyright more than we do. In all likelihood, somebody here has copied it and sent it from here.
It is quite possible.
So what happens is, when I'm an exporter, the surplus sits, then he gets an order. Yeah, I saw it in Pottery Barn. Oh, I'll create it for you. So he makes some mix and match of it or identical and sends another consignment. He's got an overlay of this and makes another consignment and sends it. So it's done here.
Okay.
So if you now sue this guy and sue that guy and say you have bought, they will immediately write to this guy and say, did you not tell us that this was somebody's copyright? You've given us an indemnity. They are very clear with their contracts.
So the disclosure becomes the issue. The guy
and I've had many cases where they've had to return the consignments. Those guys, they haven't opened the LC, so they will return the consignment to say, we are not willing to get into this hassle of copyright violation. You've sent us this consignment, we are not even picking it up from the port.
There's something called pure discoveries in IPR. I don't know, does it mean stumble upon something and you've created something out of it? What is it? Could you define for us?
It's two things. If you've stumbled upon something, I find a coin on the streets, that's discovery. But if I make that coin, take that coin and mint it into something else, that's creativity.
But I found it, I am inspired by it. I mean, unless somebody claims.
So intellectual property is property of the intellect and it only protects creativity. It's a reward for your creativity. It's not a reward for your discovery skills. So
okay. All right.
So
that's
the
a
reward
good way of looking at it.
the reward is that if you've put in a creative input to it.
Make it specific to the young generation who are, quite a lot of them are into creating, because the internet space itself is creating, whether it's news or scandal or movie or art. If you were given one platform to tell them what to do, step 1, 2, 3, 4 when they start their content companies.
So the new generation is in a very interesting, been through a very interesting phase. The generation prior to the Gen Z got the internet, which was their playground. The internet was perceived because it's free availability on your desktop. You thought it was all available to you for free. We went through that whole phase of saying everything on the internet is free.
Correct, we
So
did.
they grew up with that, thinking everything on the internet is free. And then they grew up and started becoming creators themselves. And where they were consumers of that content, now they became the creators of the content. I don't think they fully understood that it is not free. What you were using was not free. What you're now creating and others are using should not be free. And therefore, you would do yourself a great amount of service that if you are in a particular creative industry, for you to take out the time, now you can go on Google, you don't have to go to lawyers, to understand what rights do you have. Go to ChatGPT, ask the questions and see the answers. Verify those from 2 or 3 different sources. Today, you don't need to go to individuals and sit across the table and pay big fees. You can Google it, check what your rights are, and for God's sake, look at protecting those rights, because without protecting creativity, you will not get returns. If you do not get returns, you will stop creating, because you create to fill your belly. If you're not going to fill your belly, you're not going to be motivated to create. Nobody creates to give for free. You do yourself a big service to understand how is it protectable, what are your issues you're facing, keep asking those questions and getting those answers, and then take an informed decision where you want to enforce and where you don't want to enforce. Please don't throw up your hands and say nothing can be done, this country, nothing happens. If you say that, then nothing will happen. Things happen. People who want to and need to and can protect, do protect. Some spend a lot of money, others don't. But they protect, they spend X amount of money, then they make X plus Y. Then they protect, then they make more money. And then they recognize it, then they respect it, then they know there's a formula to it, they put aside a certain amount of money for. And the more you will enforce, the less you will get copied. The less you will enforce and the better your content, the more you will get copied. If that makes you happy, then find your happiness in that. When you created that music, when you wrote that book, when you made that film, when you made that YouTube channel, people loved it and they come and they, today of course even your likes you get paid for. Views matter. So you are in a very, very happy situation. Earlier you had to make a damn CD and give it out, print a book and give it out. Today you put it on a site, and if people like it, they view it, people buy it, people like it, people subscribe to it, you get paid. You have so many opportunities.
You do get paid.
Yeah.
You do get paid.
So YouTube gets paid.
I'm hoping to get paid.
There you go.
Hopefully.
So there are opportunities sitting on your desktop. You don't have to step out. I can self-publish. I can self-create. I can self-publish. I can have a revenue model sitting on my desk. I don't need anybody else to create my revenue models. I know how to market it. I can market it through social media. I can get more likes. I can become a social media influencer. Learn how to protect it. That's all. And you pretty much protect it online as well. You can make complaints. A lot of work gets done online. You don't have to go into the physical world at all.
And if you don't know where to start, you can always call
Google.
Mr. Chander Lall or
Google.
call Mr. Chander Lall. Thank you, Mr. Chander Lall, for this. We will be keeping you guys tuned. If any eventual queries about your content, please do email to me. See you on Shweta's Talkies and Mr. Chander Lall. Thank you
Cheers.
so much.